Hello, how are you doing? What we're going to do here is we're going to learn some English, and I'm going to show you especially British humor, okay? It's one of my favorite shows, British comedy shows. So we're going to look at British slang, the British accent, British pronunciation, maybe a little bit of grammar. But I'm just going to play a few different scenes for you, and I'm going to explain everything as we go, just so you understand the basic, the jokes and the story behind it. And this show is the Ricky Gervais show. It started out as a radio show with these three guys. There's Ricky Gervais, Steve Merchant, and Carl Pilkington. Ricky Gervais and Steve Merchant are comedians, very famous comedians in Britain. And Carl started out as as they say, producer for the show. And what they found is that he was just hilarious. So they kept kind of talking to him and asking him questions, and they just found out that he was hilarious to talk to. So they started making the show about Carl, really. So anyway, there's a little backstory. And I think during one of the shows, Carl mentioned that he started a diary, okay? A little diary that you write down, things about your life every day in a diary, okay? So Carl started a diary. During the show, they started to read his diary and comment on it because it was hilarious. But anyway, let's just jump into the scenes, and I'm going to explain the language as we go. Okay, so let's have a look at the first scene.
I thought, so there is stuff going on that I can chat about. Start a diary.
Sure. You started a diary.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do? Did you keep it up every day?
Yeah, just...
Oh, can I read it, please?
Well, a diary is meant to be sort of...
Please, can I read some out on this podcast? Carl.
Some of it, though, is only relevant to me. It's sort of...
This is... Please, give me it. Oh, my God.
I mean, this isn't... I haven't just...
Look how big it is!
It's one of those desk diaries.
It's huge. It's about a foot long, and it's... Oh, that is amazing.
Okay, so let's have a look at some of the language.
I thought, so there is stuff going on that I can chat about.
Okay, so what he said there is, so there is stuff going on that I can talk about. Okay, so there is stuff going on. So there is stuff. Stuff is just things generally in life. Okay, so there is stuff, things in life going on. Going on means happening, basically. There are things happening that I can talk about. And I think he said that I can chat about. Does he?
I thought, so there is stuff going on that I can chat about.
Yeah, so there is stuff, there are things going on, happening, that I can talk about. Generally in life to write in his diary. So let's keep going.
I thought, so there is stuff going on that I can chat about. Start a diary.
Sure. You started a diary.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ricky kind of points at him and says, you started a diary. Okay, so really that's kind of a question, but we don't always have to use perfect grammar for our questions. Like, oh, did you start a diary? Like the typical question. You can actually ask a question as more of a statement, but it's kind of a question as well. Like, you started a diary. He's kind of surprised, yeah? So that's just a basic past simple. You started a diary. It should be a statement, but it can be used as a question as well. Like, you just change your tone of voice, yeah? Oh, you started a diary? Or as a fact, it would be, oh, you started a diary. That's a fact. Change the tone. Oh, you started a diary? Question.
Diary.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do? Did you keep it up every day?
And that was very quick, but Ricky said, and what are you going to do? Okay, it's very, very quick. And what are you going to do? So the long version of that is, what are you going to do? Okay, it's the same as what will you do? Okay, but when we speak very quickly, we change going to gonna. Okay, so what are you gonna? What are you? And it's not what are you, it's what are you? Okay, what are you gonna? What are you? What are you going to do? What are you gonna do?
Diary.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do? Did you keep it up every day?
And then Ricky says, did you keep it up every day? Okay, so that's weird. That's a little phrasal verb, yeah? So it's a question, obviously. Did you keep it up every day? So when you say, did you keep something up? Normally we use it as well. Okay, normally we know what the person is talking about. We know Carl started a diary. So Ricky asks, oh, did you keep it? It means this whole diary thing for Carl. Okay, so did you keep it up every day? Keep it up just means to maintain it. Okay, so you continue doing something regularly every day. Did you continue doing that every day? Did you keep it up? You could also say something like, I started studying Japanese last month. And I could say to you, did you keep it up? Like, have you continued to do that? Okay, let's keep going.
Did you keep it up every day?
Yeah, just...
Can I read it, please?
Can I read it, please? That's easy.
Can I read it, please?
Well, a diary is meant to be sort of...
Please, can I read some out on this podcast?
Okay, can I read some out? Yeah, can I read it out to the audience?
Please, can I read some out on this podcast? Carl.
Some of it, though, is only relevant to me. It's sort of...
Please, give me it. Oh, my God.
I mean, this isn't... I haven't just...
Look how big it is! It's one of those desk diaries. It's huge. It's about a foot long.
Okay, so it's huge. Okay, it's about a foot long. It's approximately a foot long. A foot was an old measurement system, an old imperial measurement system, the old British measuring system. They measured things in feet. 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet long. That basketball player is 6 feet tall. Yeah. And now we've all gone to metric. We use meters. Anyway, let's go back.
It's one of those desk diaries. It's huge. It's about a foot long. And it's... that is amazing.
Okay, we're going to stop there. I just wanted to show you that, just to give you context, okay? So he started writing a diary, and now Ricky and Steve, they're going to read his diary during the show to this radio audience. Or, yeah, I think at the time maybe it was still a radio audience, but then they changed it to a podcast. But this is the animated version of the podcast. Okay, so I'm going to skip forward a bit. I'm not going to show you every moment of this show. I'm only going to show you, for me, just the funniest scenes, okay? And we can learn English along the way. Okay.
Going on holiday to Gran Canaria today. Woke up to the news that Tony Banks had died. There was a piece on the news about how everyone was shocked. Got me thinking about an invention that would be good. Right. A watch that counted down your life. If it says you've got 3 days left, go to the doctors. Told Suzanne about invention. She said she wouldn't buy one. But she said that about the iPod.
Okay, so let's go back and go slowly through the language.
Going on holiday to Gran Canaria today.
Okay, so Ricky says, going on holiday to Gran Canaria today. Okay, so if you say it in a very kind of Spanish accent, the Gran Canaria. That's my terrible Spanish accent, but most people refer to it as the Canary Islands. Okay, there are some islands to the south of Spain, kind of off the coast of Africa. You probably know where the Canary Islands are. Okay, so Carl went there on holiday. So Ricky says going on holiday to Gran Canaria today. Okay, so we don't always say going with an ng, ing. It's kind of your tongue touches the back of your mouth, ing. It turns more into an N sound. Okay, going. Okay, very quickly when we speak, just turns into going on holiday. All right, let's go back.
Going on holiday to Gran Canaria today. Woke up to the news that Tony Banks had died.
Woke up to the news. Okay, he says, woke up to the news that Tony Banks had died. Okay, so you see there, even when we speak very casually, because Carl there is writing very casually in his diary. He's not the most formal person in the world, okay, or academic. It's very, very casual. And he said, woke up to the news that Tony Banks had died. Okay, he didn't say, I woke up to the news. Just started with woke up. Woke up to the news that Tony Banks, some famous guy, Tony Banks, okay, had died. So, had died there is past perfect, okay? It's past in the past. So, we only use past perfect to talk about something that happened normally before past simple. Okay, so the first, let me go this way so it makes more sense. He woke up. That's the first point back in the past. Okay, woke up. If he's talking now, you jump back to that point in the past when he woke up, the first past point. And then the past perfect is to talk about something that happened until that point. Before he woke up, Tony Banks had died before that point. Okay, the only reason we use past perfect is just think of it as extra information. Okay, because he wants to say like he woke up, and then the extra information around that waking up was, this guy had died. You cannot jump straight into just using the past perfect. You cannot just say Tony Banks had died. Okay, if you wanted to say that, you would have to use past simple. Oh, Tony Banks died. Okay, but if you want to mention something like, he woke up, and before that, until that point when he woke up, something happened, then you use past perfect. Only then. Okay, Tony Banks had died before he woke up. You cannot only use past perfect. Okay, I just found out that he's not referring to Tony Banks from Genesis. He's still living. He's referring to an old British politician. Okay, Tony Banks, British Labour politician. I think, I'm pretty sure.
Woke up to the news that Tony Banks had died. There was a piece on the news about how everyone was shocked.
Okay, there was a piece on the news about how everyone was shocked. Okay, so a piece on the news. A piece is like a short little segment of news. Okay, a piece, it's a unit for like one piece of news. Okay, so I saw a piece on the news. I saw a report on the news.
There was a piece on the news about how everyone was shocked.
There was a piece on the news about how everyone was shocked. Okay, about how everyone was shocked. Shocked is like surprise. Yeah, they can't believe this guy had died.
There was a piece on the news about how everyone was shocked. Got me thinking about an invention that was being good.
So that got me thinking about an invention. Okay, that got me thinking. Now that's a weird way to phrase things with get. Get is a very, very complicated word. You probably know there's a million different meanings for get. So that got me thinking. Because get sometimes goes from, let's just say, from not thinking to thinking. Okay, you go from this point to that point with get. Okay, so he was not thinking about an invention, but that news, it got him thinking. Okay, it got him thinking about this invention. Or what about another example? You could also say, if you're at school or university, one of your friends tells you that there's an exam tomorrow and you didn't know. So you could say, oh, my friend told me there's an exam and that got me panicking. Okay, that got me panicking, like worried. So you weren't panicking at one stage. Now that piece of news, it got you here to panicking. Okay, not panicking. It got me panicking. It's kind of like saying, like, what time did you get to the hotel? Okay, because you can be not at the hotel, but then you can get to the hotel. You're going from there to there. Get is very, very complicated.
Got me thinking about an invention that was being good.
So that got me thinking about an invention that would be good. Now, would is a very, very complicated little word to understand, okay? So you probably know would. We use it for conditionals. Now, let's forget conditionals, okay? Let's forget conditionals. You can also use would for would like, okay? I would like to visit Rome. I would like to live in Scandinavia, whatever. I would like, that's from now into the future, okay? I would like to do something. That's only from now into the future. But there are other ways to use would. There is a future from a past point would, and that's this example, okay? Now, he said, it got me thinking about an invention that would be good. So normally with this future from a past point would, you need a thinking verb or a speaking verb, okay? So in this example, it got me thinking about something, okay? So just trust me. For example, I could say, when I woke up this morning, I planned that I would study some German, Japanese, any language. Okay, so when I woke up this morning, we've got a past point. I planned, that's the thinking verb, planned, or I thought, or I decided. Okay, so thinking verbs, I decided that I would, okay, would and then verb, I would study Japanese. Okay, it's a future intention from a past point. But anyway, he said, it got me thinking. There's your thinking verb. Okay, it got me thinking about an invention that would possibly be good. It's a would be, would verb, would be. Okay, so it's a future from a past point thinking verb. Okay, It's a little complicated, but the more we study language, you can see this repeat again and again in the English language.
Got me thinking about an invention. That was pretty good. Right. A watch that counted down your life.
Okay, a watch that counted down your life. So everyone knows what a watch is. A watch. Okay, a watch. Okay, a watch that counted down your life. So when you count, you're like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But a watch that counted down, like the, New Year's Eve, the countdown, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, way. Okay, that is a countdown. Okay, you're counting down to 0. 3, 2, 1. Now, he's got a watch that counts down. Let me listen again. So, a watch that counted down your life. Okay, so you're wearing this watch, and I don't know what Carl is thinking, but he's thinking that the watch can somehow know when you're going to die. And so you can see, okay, I have 5 years left. Okay, a few years pass, I have 1 year left. Okay, I have 6 months left. Okay, I have 3 days left. Okay, I have 5 minutes left. I have 2 seconds left, and then die. Okay. This is Carl. These are Carl's thoughts. Okay.
A watch that counted down your life. If it says you've got 3 days left, go to the doctors.
If it says you've got 3 days left, go to the doctors. Okay, that's a kind of a conditional. If it says, I think it's first conditional. If it says you've got, you've got is just you have. Okay, for some reason we say you've got. Just think of it like you have. Like, how much money have you got? Oh, I've got 10 euro. I've got. It's the same as I have. I have 10 euro.
If it says you've got 3 days left, go to the doctors.
If it says you've got 3 days left, go to the doctors. You see, it's not a typical conditional, which is why students get so confused with conditionals. Because when you study conditionals, you see these rules, and it looks easy. First, zero conditional, first conditional, second, third conditional. And you have a look there, and you think that you should follow that structure, but really what native English speakers do is we create crazy structures with conditionals. The thing you got to trust in is that, does it sound logical? Sometimes it's not even grammatically correct, okay? But you just got to remember that the variations when it comes to conditionals is crazy. There's a huge amount of variations, okay? So just forget that for now. I mean, in the future, I'll go into all these variations of conditionals, but just know that there's a lot of mixed kind of conditionals and variations that you can make. So this is one example of it. Yeah. If it says that you've got how many days?
If it says you've got 3 days left, go to the doctors.
If it says that you've got 3 days left, go to the doctors. It's more of a statement, if it says this, then do that, okay? But it doesn't fit nicely into the 0, the first, the second, or the third conditional. I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. Let's keep going.
Told Suzanne about invention.
Told Suzanne about the invention. Okay, told. You see, he doesn't say I told. He just says told Suzanne, because he's writing very casually in his diary. So I told Suzanne about the invention.
Told Suzanne about invention. She said she wouldn't buy one. But she said that about the iPod.
So she said she wouldn't buy one. Oh, there's a good example. Now, she said she wouldn't buy one. Now, what that is the future from a past point again, okay? But it's a speaking verb. It's not a thinking verb. She said, okay, said, speaking verb. She said she would not, verb. She wouldn't buy one. She wouldn't, the future from that past point when she said, when, he's in the airplane, okay, from that moment, her future intention, it's a negative, she wouldn't buy one, okay? If it was positive, she would say, she said, speaking verb, she said she would buy one, if it was positive. But basically, that is a future intention from a past point, okay?
Told Suzanne about invention. She said she wouldn't buy one. But she said that about the iPod.
But she said that about the iPod. Okay, but she said that about the iPod. So she obviously said she wouldn't buy an iPod, and then she did buy an iPod. Anyway, yeah, this is many years ago when people still had iPods. So let's go to another scene. Okay, so let's just watch through the scene. We'll come back and study the language.
The hotel's a bit odd. I've never seen as many cross-eyed people in one location.
That's enough, isn't it?
That's amazing.
Okay, so Steve says the hotel's a bit odd. Okay, now the long version is the hotel is a bit odd. Okay, so the hotel Carl is on holiday in the Canary Islands. So the hotel's a bit odd. The hotel is a bit odd, but you just contract. Okay, so the hotel's a bit odd. A bit is like a little bit. Okay, a little. It is a little odd. Odd is weird, strange. Okay, like he's odd. That guy there is strange. He's odd. So the hotel is a little bit weird.
The hotel's a bit odd. I've never seen as many cross-eyed people in one location.
Okay, so he says, I've never seen as many cross-eyed people in one location. So I've never seen. Now that's present perfect. Okay, I've never seen. Think about present perfect like it's complicated. You know, what's the difference between the past simple and the present perfect? Just think about the present perfect as it zooms out of your life. Okay, there's no details of when or where things happen. You're just zooming out of life and you're just making a general statement about the past. Whereas if you use past simple, that you use that more when you zoom into details of the past. Okay, like last Tuesday, I went to the shop and I bought something and I spoke to the shop assistant, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so past simple, when you describe detailed actions, you think of it like you're zooming into details of the past. Okay, present perfect, have you ever seen Terminator 2? Okay, and then you just say, yeah, I have. Okay, so I'm zooming out of your life. I'm not asking exactly where, when, there's no details. I'm just zooming out. Have you ever seen Terminator 2? And you say, yes, I have. I only know generally somewhere in your past you did that, but there's no details. Okay, so Carl said, I've never seen as many cross-eyed people in one location. So I've never seen. So it's a negative. He zooms out. I have never seen. Okay, as many. That's weird because I would normally say so many. I've never seen so many cross-eyed people. Okay, but language changes a lot. I mean, you know, British. I mean, this is very, very casual British English. So, I mean, there's a lot of variations with words that people use. So he uses as. So I've never seen as many cross-eyed people. Now, cross-eyed is probably something very rude to say about someone. Okay, cross-eyed is when it's kind of bad, it's rude. But when, you know, you get people who their pupils kind of point inwards like that, like, you know, some people are able. I remember when we were kids, like everyone tried to actually force their eyes to go cross-eyed. You can see, you can see the picture there. I mean, cross-eyed is just people whose eyes point inwards. I don't know what Carl thinks about it, but that's Carl. Even the dog.
That's enough, isn't it?
That's amazing.
Well, you may as well let me read on a bit more.
No, this is amazing.
We'll come back to
This
it
is a
later,
brilliant diary. This might be the best diary ever written.
So Ricky says, this is amazing. This is a brilliant diary. This might be the best diary ever written. This might be, okay, might is possibility. Yeah, this might be the best diary ever written, ever in history. Okay, so I'm going to skip forward to another scene.
Oh, brilliant.
Had a drink in a bar. Everyone sat and watched one of the local cats lick its bollocks.
It's the greatest holiday in the world. That's the entertainment in that town.
Went back to the hotel and had a sleep before tea. I love the fact you're moaning about old people, but you're just as bad.
You've done nothing so far.
He's done nothing, he's got a hip.
Oh, brilliant.
Had a drink in a bar.
Had a drink in a bar, okay? Yeah, look there. He doesn't say I had a drink in a bar. Just had a drink in the bar. Okay, a drink, a beer. Had is like drink. Yeah, I drank a beer in the bar. I had a drink.
Had a drink in a bar. Everyone sat and watched one of the local cats lick its bollocks.
Okay, let's try and translate it. Well, not translate, let's make it clear. Everyone sat and watched. Let's go back.
Had a drink in a bar. Everyone sat and watched one of the local cats lick its bollocks.
Everyone sat and watched one of the local cats lick its bollocks. This is the English language. I mean, you can't run away from the English language. If you go to Britain, you're going to hear people talking about these topics, okay? It's not really for kids. I mean, this lesson is here for adults who want to learn this kind of language, okay? Everyone sat and watched. You sit and watch something, okay? Everyone sat and watched one of the local cats. A local cat is one of the cats that is always there in that little town or village, okay? A local cat. A local guy. A local bar. You know what local means. So everyone sat and watched one of the local cats lick its bollocks. Now, I'm sorry, but you got to know what bollocks means. I mean, especially if you go to Britain, people use it in Ireland as well. Bollocks is like testicles. There's one meaning for it, okay? So the cat is licking its testicles. And there's two. In Spanish, what do you call them? Huevos. Bollocks can also be like rubbish. You know, if someone is talking crap, like you just don't agree with what they're saying. Like, what are you saying? You know, bollocks. Or he's talking bollocks. He's talking absolute bollocks. Like he's talking absolute nonsense, rubbish. It doesn't make sense. Okay, that's another meaning. The other meaning here is the cat is actually licking its bollocks, its testicles. Let's keep going.
It's the greatest holiday in the world. That's the entertainment in that town.
It's the greatest holiday in the world. The entertainment in that town, yeah? Normally in a town with entertainment, you can go to the cinema, you can go and watch a play, you can go to a museum. In this town, everyone sits around and watches the local cat licking its, you know what, his testicles.
That's the entertainment in that town.
Went back to the hotel and had a sleep before tea.
Went back to the hotel and had a sleep before tea. Okay, went back, see, just, there's no I. Went back to the hotel and had a, let's see.
Went back to the hotel and had a sleep before tea.
And had a sleep before tea. Okay, had a sleep, I had a nap, I had a small little sleep before tea. Okay, the British are very famous for their tea. I never really have tea myself. You know, I don't set a time in the day to have tea, but it's a very British thing.
Went back to the hotel and had a sleep before tea. I love the fact you're moaning about old people, but you're just as bad.
So Steve says, I love the fact that you're moaning about old people. Okay, you're moaning. You are moaning. Moaning is complaining. Okay, Carl is complaining about old people. Okay, he's moaning.
I love the fact you're moaning about old people, but you're just as bad.
But you're just as bad. Okay, Carl is moaning about old people, but he's just as bad. Carl hates old people, but he's like an old person. You know, he's almost the same as an old person. Going for a nap, going for a little siesta.
I love the fact you're moaning about old people, but you're just as bad.
You've done nothing so far.
He's done nothing. He's got a hip.
So Ricky says, you've done nothing so far. Okay, so you've done... So he contracts, you have done nothing so far. Okay, so you've... And say it very quickly. You've done nothing. You've done nothing. You have done nothing. You've done. So you've done nothing so far. So far is like until this point in the story. You've done nothing until this point in the story. You've done nothing so far.
I love the fact you're moaning about old people, but you're just as bad.
You've done nothing so far.
He's done nothing. He's got a hip.
I think Steve said there he's gone for a kip. You know, he's done nothing, he's gone for a kip. A kip is a word for a little nap, a little sleep. Okay? A kip is a small little, you know, as the Spanish say, a siesta. Okay? I'm going to take a kip. I'm going to go for a small little sleep and a little nap.
Went and did the podcast. We had a meeting after. I don't like meetings as I can't keep focused on what people are talking about. I think Ricky has the same problem as after 25 minutes he was trying to wrestle me. I tried to do what spiders do and stayed still as if I was dead. But Ricky just stayed on top of me, not moving. A bit like when you see one of them big snakes swallowing a sheep. Ricky got bored and released me. I went home thinking, why had I left my old job for this?
Okay, so let's go back and have a look at that language.
Went and did the podcast.
Okay, so went and did the podcast. He went and he did the podcast that he does with Ricky and Steve.
Went and did the podcast. We had a meeting after.
Okay, so we had a meeting after. We had a meeting about the podcast.
We had a meeting after. I don't like meetings as I can't keep focused on what people are talking about.
I don't like meetings. No one likes meetings. I don't like meetings because I can't keep focused. He cannot focus, okay? I can't keep focused on, listen.
We had a meeting after. I don't like meetings as I can't keep focused on what people are talking about.
I can't keep focused on what people are talking about. I cannot keep focused on what people are talking about, okay?
I think Ricky has the same problem as after 25 minutes he was trying to wrestle me.
I think Ricky has the same problem because after 25 minutes, he started to wrestle me. Let me just check that.
I think Ricky has the same problem as after 25 minutes he was trying to wrestle me.
As after 25 minutes, he was trying to wrestle me, okay? I think Ricky has the same problem. Ricky cannot focus on what people are saying. I think Ricky has the same problem as... We use as the same way as we do because, yeah? I think Ricky has the same problem because after 25 minutes, but we can use as there as well. I think Ricky has the same problem as after 25 minutes in the meeting, Ricky was trying to wrestle Carl. Wrestle is to... It's just, when you're kids and let's say you're... What is wrestling? I mean, you can see the sport wrestling. You kind of grab each other and you try and throw each other on the ground. I don't know why Ricky is trying to wrestle Carl, but that's Ricky. So you wrestle is kind of like grab someone and play around, grab them, try and throw them on the ground, try and annoy them, which is Ricky's big goal in life, to annoy Carl.
I tried to do what spiders do and stayed still as if I was dead.
So I tried to do what spiders do. I tried to do what spiders generally do, okay? And stayed still as if I was dead. Okay, and stayed still. If you try and get a spider out of your house, like you can chase it with a broom or something, and then when you touch it, it kind of freezes up and pretends to be dead. So Carl was pretending to be dead.
I tried to do what spiders do and stayed still as if I was dead.
And stayed still. Still, very, very still, not moving. As if I was dead, like I was dead. Okay? Like pretending like I was dead.
I tried to do what spiders do and stayed still as if I was dead. But Ricky just stayed on top of me, not moving.
And Ricky just stayed on top of me. Ricky just there is like simply. Ricky simply sat on him. Stayed on me, not moving.
Ricky just stayed on top of me, not moving. A bit like when you see one of them big snakes swallowing a sheep.
Okay, a bit like when you see one of those big snakes swallowing a sheep.
Ricky just stayed on top of me, not moving. A bit like when you see one of them big snakes swallowing a sheep.
A bit is like, especially in... Yeah, I think the Americans, the Irish, the British, the Australians, we all use that kind of a expression. A bit, a little bit like one of them big snakes. See, sometimes I notice this with British as well. They say them for the, one or those, one of those big snakes. But you can also say one of them big snakes. It's just a variation in the English language. Okay, it's not grammatically correct, but people use it. One of them, it means something similar to those, one of those snakes.
A bit like when you see one of them big snakes swallowing a sheep.
One of those big snakes swallowing, when you eat food, you swallow, the food goes down. One of those big snakes swallowing a sheep. Why a sheep? Where did he get that image from? I don't know. He's probably watching a YouTube video that day of a snake swallowing an unfortunate sheep. It's not often you see a snake swallowing a sheep. So
Ricky got bored and released me.
So Ricky got bored. There we go. There we got. Okay. So got is when you go from one condition to another condition. Okay. So Ricky was not bored at one stage. He was not bored and then he was bored. Okay. And we use get to go from there to there. So he was not bored and then he got bored. He became bored. Okay. Just remember, when we use got in some situations, it means you go from not something to something. Like not bored to bored. He got bored.
Ricky got bored and released me. I went home thinking, why had I left my old job for this?
So I went home thinking. So I went home gerund thinking. Thinking there is kind of like it's kind of like an adjective sometimes, the gerund. I went home thinking. Yeah, it's describing his condition when he went home. Okay, I went home thinking. Like you could also say, look at that man reading the newspaper. Like look at that man and then gerund reading the newspaper. To me it's kind of like an adjective describing the man. You know, it should be a verb, but it's kind of like an adjective. Like which man? Oh, the man there reading the newspaper. It's describing the man. Okay, kind of like an adjective.
I went home thinking, why had I left my old job for this?
Why had I left my old job for this? Past perfect. Past in the past. So he went home thinking. Went is passible. You know, there's the now, and then he jumps back to the past point. I went home thinking. And now past in the past. What happened before that past simple? Why had I left my old job for this? Okay, so remember, past perfect, you need to use a past simple first, okay? You cannot just use the past perfect. You have to say, you know, so Carl here says, I went home thinking, first fixed point. Before that, why had I left my job until that point? For this job that he has now with Ricky and Steve. You know, with Ricky sitting on him. And Ricky thinks it's hilarious.
Suzanne called me to say she'd gone for a haircut and that she'd meet me in the supermarket. I went to the supermarket, but she wasn't there. I called her and she said she was near the fruit aisle. I went to the fruit aisle and she wasn't there. Turns out she was in a different supermarket on the other side of town. And that if I'd listened to her properly, I'd have known that.
Okay, Suzanne called me to tell me she had gone for a haircut.
Suzanne called me to say she'd gone for a haircut.
Suzanne is Carl's girlfriend. Suzanne called me to tell me she'd gone for a haircut. Okay, so now you probably didn't hear that, but that's actually a past perfect. She'd gone. Okay, she'd gone. There's a small little soft D. She'd gone. She had gone. Okay, it's past perfect, past in the past. So there again, we have the now. Okay, they're talking now, and then they jump back to a past point. So Suzanne called me. Called, past simple. Suzanne called me to say that she'd gone for a haircut before she called Carl. Okay, past in the past. Let's just listen there again. Suzanne called me, that's the first past, to tell me she'd gone for a haircut. She had gone for a haircut before she called him. Okay, past in the past.
Suzanne called me to say she'd gone for a haircut and that she'd meet me in the supermarket.
And that she'd meet me in the supermarket. Now this gets tricky because that is not past perfect. That is future from a past point, which is why it gets really, really tricky. Okay, she'd gone for a haircut is she had gone for a haircut. And then he continues, and that she'd meet me in the supermarket. Okay, now that there is that she would meet me in the supermarket. Okay, they both have soft little D's, yeah? She'd gone for a haircut. She'd meet me at the supermarket. But the D, there are two different words. One is had, one is would. Okay, she'd gone for a haircut. She had gone. Okay, past in the past. And that she'd meet me in the supermarket. She would meet me in the supermarket. So that is future from a past point. From when she called him, that past point, she would. It's a future intention from a past point. She would meet me in the supermarket. From the point of view of them talking in the podcast, that moment is now. Now, all of that happened in the past, okay? So she called Carl to tell him that she'd meet him in the supermarket, okay? It's future from a past point, but everything is in the past from when they're talking during this show, okay? All of it is in the past. It doesn't go into the future at all, because when you use the future, then it becomes will. You know, from now, later, she will meet me in the supermarket. But future from a past point is... And she's got a speaking verb there, yeah? She called him to tell, speaking verb, that she would meet him in the supermarket. Future intention from a past point with a speaking verb or a thinking verb.
And that she'd meet me in the supermarket. I went to the supermarket, but she wasn't there.
I went to the supermarket, but she wasn't there. Okay, I went to the supermarket, but she wasn't there.
I went to the supermarket, but she wasn't there. I called her and she said she was near the fruit aisle.
I called her and she said that she was near the fruit aisle. I called her and she said that she was close to the fruit aisle. Okay, so if you go to a supermarket, you got your fruits and your vegetables and all your stuff, okay? The aisle is the kind of the walkway, okay? You know, just the area you walk down.
I went to the supermarket, but she wasn't there. I called her and she said she was near the fruit aisle.
The aisle. Like if you're on an airplane, you have your seats on both sides, but in the middle, if it's one of the smaller planes, in the middle you can walk along the aisle. Okay? Some of the bigger planes, you have 2 aisles. You know, you have 3 seats and then 2 aisles, and then you have maybe 3 or 4 seats in the middle. But the walkways, they are the aisles. So Carl said, I went to the fruit aisle, but she wasn't there. Okay, it's a strange pronunciation as well. Like, just look at the word aisle. It looks like aisle, but the way you say it is aisle. So I went to the fruit aisle, and she wasn't there.
I called her and she said she was near the fruit aisle. I went to the fruit aisle and she wasn't there. Turns out she was in a different supermarket on the other side of town.
Turns out she was in a different supermarket on the other side of town. Okay, turns out that's a difficult phrasal verb to use. It's kind of like, in the end, you find out something. Okay, in the end, there is some kind of result. Yeah, like after talking to his girlfriend Suzanne, you know, at the end he found out, he discovered that she was in a totally different supermarket on the other side of town. On the other, you know, if you have a town or city, okay, town is just on one side. Here's one supermarket. There's the town. On the other side, she was in a totally different supermarket.
I called her and she said she was near the fruit aisle. I went to the fruit aisle and she wasn't there. Turns out she was in a different supermarket on the other side of town.
Like, for example, I could also say, like one of my friends, let's say he went camping, okay? He went camping. Hopefully you know what camping is. So, and he told me that he was going camping, and then when I see him again, I could say, hey, Jim, how did your camping turn out? How did your camping turn out? Like in the end, was it good or was it bad? You know, it's the kind of like the result in the end. How did it turn out? Oh, it turned out great. Or it's when you find out something. You know, like I was searching for flights to Spain. Turns out there's no flights. You know, it's like in the end, I found out, I discovered some information. Okay?
On the other side of town. And that if I'd listened to her properly, I'd have known that.
So if I had listened to her properly, I'd have known that. There is a third conditional, okay? If I'd listened to her. Now that actually follows the rules of conditional grammar pretty well. If I'd listened to her, if I had listened to her, it's past perfect. You probably know from studying conditionals. That's actually, for some reason, Carl is using good grammar there. If I had listened, if I'd listened.
On the other side of town. And that if I'd listened to her properly, I'd have known that.
If I'd listened to her properly, I'd have known that. So I would have, wait. I'd have. Yeah, see there, he contracts the I and the would. Yeah, he says I'd have known that. Okay, he puts I and would together to make I'd have known that. Sometimes people contract, actually mostly people contract the would and the have. You know, I would have known that. But so you can contract Normally it's the would and the have, would have for me. But here Carl contracts the I and the would. I'd have known that. Anyway, that's third conditional. Third conditional means there was a reality in the past, but he's imagining a different reality. Like, the reality that happened is that... Whoa, listen.
On the other side of town. And that if I'd listened to her properly, I'd have known that.
So if I had listened to her properly, the reality is he didn't listen to her properly. So he didn't know that. Okay, that is what happened. He didn't listen to her, and so he didn't know. But he's imagining, if it was different, if I had listened to her properly, I would have known that. Okay, so we use, for third conditionals, whenever you use a modal in the past, well, like would, okay, I would have known. You need the have, and then you need the verb number 3, the past participle. I would have known. Know, knew, known. Okay, I would have known that. Okay, so it's actually getting pretty dark, as you see, and we've studied a lot of British humour and slang and expressions, and hopefully you understood some of those jokes and the stories. And what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to keep going through his diary, and just so you can get used to British humour, British slang, expressions, vocabulary, accent, things like that. And I'm going to look at a lot of movies in the future and just other stuff. So, you can leave a little comment. You can leave suggestions of what you want me to study. And hopefully you can understand British English a little better after watching this video. Okay, so thanks very much. Have a look out for the next video. Peace.